Mr. Vice President, thank you for being with us. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, or even before that, the European Union faced significant challenges, even within your portfolio. And a lot of things are discussed right now about the new conditions of the single market, the competitiveness of the EU. Following the efforts by this Commission, could you prioritize the short term, the immediate objectives of the next Commission?
Well, if we now look already for the next political cycle, so for the next 5 years, I would highlight two topics. One is European security and defense, and another is competitiveness. On European security and defense, it's very clear that following Russia's aggression against Ukraine and also seeing that Russia is openly threatening to invade also other countries, it's clear that EU needs to strengthen its defense capabilities and also its military industry. We have already started to work on this, and there are several initiatives already ongoing in this regard. Also, EU member states are strengthening their defense expenditure, but certainly there will be many more things to do. So clearly, this is going to be one of the priorities for the next political cycle. And second, on EU competitiveness, it's also something which we must address because EU is facing a number of structural challenges, like, for example, relatively slow productivity growth, where EU is behind the growth in US and China already for decades, population aging, relatively high energy prices. So we need to address those structural challenges and maintain and strengthen EU's competitiveness, while also continuing with the green and digital transformation of our economy. So I would highlight those as the main topics for the next political cycle.
Let us focus a bit on the first pillar and elaborate a bit more. We need funds for supporting the European defense industry. We need funds maybe out of the European Security Fund, out of a common defense bond. Which is the scenario that is more sustainable in your opinion?
This is something which we definitely will need to discuss. So already in March, we published the first ever European defense industrial strategy. So to providing a clear long-term vision how to achieve defense industrial readiness in the EU. And we also came with a legislative proposal for European defense industry program in a short term, in a sense, mobilizing resources which we can have in this multi-annual financial framework till 2027. But clearly we will need discussions on the EU's multi-annual budget post 2027 on substantial funding going in defense. How exactly it's achieved, so what exactly are those common funding instruments? Is it common debt? Is it just increasing the size of EU budget? I think those are the topics which we'll have to discuss.
Another topic that I think is under discussion in Brussels and in the European capitals, in response to the economic consequences of the pandemic, the EU established actually the Recovery and Resilience Facility. Approximately 2 years from now, the RRF will expire, at least in its current legal framework. Do you see any form of continuation for this, and in what capacity?
Well, indeed, as a response to COVID-19 pandemic, we prepared European Economic Recovery Plan and Next Generation EU, and the Recovery and Resilience Facility was a main pillar of that plan. And by now we are well halfway through this facility and fully focusing now on implementation, because as you outlined, deadlines are quite tight and there are substantial resources available for this. So what are the elements we will need to carry on in the next political cycle? Well, this certainly we'll need to discuss, because RRF was prepared in response to COVID-19 pandemic, also later to address economic challenges, including energy challenges posed by Russia's aggression against Ukraine. So those challenges we are now successfully addressing, but at the same time, we certainly will need to continue with the green and digital transformation of economy. We'll need to strengthen our defense industry, just to mention some of the priorities. And all of this will require larger common European funding to respond to those challenges. But I would say on exact forms of this, those discussions are still ahead of us.
And let's come to Greek. Drawing upon your knowledge of the Greek economy, particularly during the years of crisis, how would you evaluate the current state of the Greek economy? And actually, in your opinion, which are the most significant challenges moving forward?
As regards state of play of Greek economy, it must be said that Greece has managed to have major economic turnaround and right now is growing well above EU average growth rates. So for this year and next, we forecast Greek economic growth of 2.3% each year, and that compares to 0.9% and 1.7% growth in the EU as a whole. So Greece is growing faster. Also, debt to GDP ratio is declining rapidly. It has peaked at 207% of GDP. Now it's around 160% of GDP. It's still obviously a very high debt ratio, but we had seen substantial decrease over the recent years. And Greek economy is also benefiting well from the recovery plan, where in terms of GDP in terms of the share of the GDP, Greek plan is the second largest after Croatia. So basically, Greece is the second largest benefiter from recovery and resilience facility. And already by the end of last year, we have disbursed 41% of the total funds which are available under Greek recovery resilience plan. So also there one can say that implementation is well on track.
We are approaching in a few weeks to the European Parliament elections. The upcoming institutions, including the Parliament, will have to decide and have several tasks that we discussed before. The alliances that should be built depend on the result. So what outcomes would you deem favorable to facilitate the optimal decision-making process, which is the best scenario for alliances within the new parliament?
First of all, I would expect that the European People's Party will again emerge as largest and most influential political force in the EU, and Prime Minister Mitsotakis is also representing this political force, and that also in the next European Parliament we are going to have a pro-European majority. So it will be important, obviously, that pro-European parties are working together and agreeing on the way forward. So, as I said, I expect that there's going to be pro-European majority, as it was this time, but at the same time, we can also expect more votes going to the fringes of political spectrum, both far right and far left. So it will be actually even more important that the political center is working together.
And finally, securing a new term within the next Commission, an objective for you?
Indeed, there is no secret on this. Should there be a possibility, I would be happy to continue the work in the European Commission.
Vice President, thank you very much for being with us.